I love Genesis. I love teaching it. I love reading it. I am someone who completely accepts evolution as being true, and I had to work through how to square those from a historical perspective. I did that in a different video, so I'm not going to bring that here, but it is there for people who were wondering. It is a little esoteric, so no worries if you don't want to watch it. I am going to show you today how I teach Genesis to women in jail. It's a mix of what I've learned from Catechesis of the Good Shepherd, but it's different enough that I feel comfortable sharing it, because I wouldn't share that method just because that really requires one-on-one in-person formation. The rest of it I pulled from the Catholic Introduction to the Bible. This is really, I think it's meant to be an academic text meant by John Bergsma and Brant Petrie. So I pulled from that for the rest of it. So to start, I would usually ask what their background is, what they feel about God, how they view God, how do they understand him? Is he distant? Is he close? Does he care? Is he punishing? Is he loving? Those sorts of questions, so I know what angle I should take when I'm presenting the material to them. So you could do what I'm going to show you just a number of different ways, emphasize different things, but I'm going to show you how I did it on my last trip to the jail, and it was only one woman, so it's super easy to kind of specialize it towards her. And I think it's just more simple to explain that way also. So my last person that I talked to about this told me that she always felt like God was really close to her. Even she had some terrible circumstances, she just had the sense that God could reach her wherever she was. So I felt like that was a really strong starting point. Then she told me she didn't feel like she needed to go to Mass to find God. She felt like she could find God wherever she was. I told her it's great that you have a good sense that God comes to you, that he is always with you, that his love knows no bounds, that he's always capable of reaching you wherever you are. And then I said we could probably get started with going through Genesis. And I had in the back of my mind that I would speak to her not wanting to go to Mass. Without talking to her, I wanted to use the text to do that. I'm going to put the text on the screen. You read it, pretend you're reading it. I'm talking to you, and you're in jail. You're in my jail of this YouTube video. Go ahead and read that first day. Okay, what are we seeing here? What happened? How does God create? He separates. What does that mean? What does it mean to separate? If I'm cleaning up the house, what's the first thing that I do? Okay, so we're seeing order here. We're seeing you're separating things out of the chaos, the night and the day. Some other pagan myths at this time and this place talked about creation as a result of an accident or out of violence or out of a struggle. Are we seeing that in this first day? No, we're not. We're just seeing order and intention and separation and peace. He creates by speaking and without struggle. Okay, so we have our first day and night. Typically, I would draw this on a board or something, but I'm going to just remove it so it's not takes up a bunch of time. So we have our first day, night and day. Okay, let's read the second day and see what happens. Okay, what are we seeing on the second day? Waters from waters, more separation. So we see in some of the other myths at this time, either the Babylonian myths or the Egyptian or the Canaanite myth have this sort of sense of the sea as being uncontrollable and very chaotic. What are we seeing here? God is bringing order to the chaos. He has total control over the sea. Is he inside or outside creation? Outside of creation. He's not within it, and he has total control over everything that he's created so far. So we've got waters from waters. And let's keep going with the third day. Okay, so now we have dry land that appears. More separating, more order. There's no violence. Things continue on the same path. Day 4. So interesting, we have the sun and moon as governors, markers of the day and the night. Egyptian mythology and other cultures in this time, just like the other ones, they worship the sun or the moon. Are we seeing that here? No, they're kind of a governor of a kind, but God has total power over them. They're put in their place, aren't any sort of deity. So it seems like maybe creation, the story of creation, is talking to these other myths. It's got some of the same elements, but we can see there's a different order here. And this one is pretty unique in that it always places God outside of creation and not within creation. And it always has total control, and it's always peaceful, and there's always full intent. The sun and the moon are governors then of a kind, but they're not gods. Keep going with day 5. Okay, birds and fish. Within the water, we have a sea monster that's talked about. Again, the sea monster was a god that was worshipped in some of these other myths. Are we seeing that here? Seems like we're still talking to these other myths, right? So he created and ordered in the sea. The Babylonians thought the sea monster was a goddess, and that's not what we're seeing here. Nope, God is outside of creation and in total control over it. It's not too much of a sea monster. But... And then let's go look at the 6th day. So what happens next? We've got man, and we've got the animals. And how is man created? He's ordered, it's with love, it's intent. He's not created as a result of a struggle or out of violence or accidentally created. He's created with purpose, and he's called to work in the garden. He's supposed to work with his hands, right? It should be obvious by now that there's a trend here. This is, we've got sort of time, and then we have the rulers of the time, right? Not gods, but markers. And then we've got the spaces, the waters in the waters, and then those spaces are filled. And then we've got land and vegetation, and then that's also filled with animals and mankind. So you see there's like the spaces, and then we have kind of the rulers of the spaces. And this is a technique, it's called temple building, that shows there's order and intention. Basically that the whole universe, the whole cosmos is a sort of temple. And what do we do in a temple? We worship. So what does it mean to worship in the Catholic understanding? So at the heart of worship is sacrifice. And what is sacrifice? What's at the heart of sacrifice is gift, freely given. So we have all of these things are not made for their own sake. The other myths maybe had mankind working as a slave to the god. God rests on the 7th day from all of his work. We see that at the over all of this is the temple. God is ruler. He's outside of all of this. He's a ruler over the top. And that rest is his enthronement over the cosmos. Mankind is not made to, he's made to work, but he's not supposed to work endlessly. He's supposed to live in relationship with God on that 7th day. That all of these things are gifts of God that are then ordered towards him in worship and in sacrifice. We often associate sacrifice with pain, with suffering. And in this world, in a broken world, we do have those things as elements of sacrifice. But at the heart of sacrifice is love, of the full offering of yourself, even when it hurts. Just to break, I would probably draw this on like a marker board or something if I had just any kind of pen, and it would kind of look like I just do super simple drawings just to kind of bring that, and I would draw them as they're reading the text. You're not in jail anymore. Depending on the person, I would continue. I could maybe even go through the second account of creation, and then we'd compare what we're seeing. Are we seeing God outside of creation? Are we seeing order? Are we seeing intent? And then with mankind, we'd say, are we seeing the same things? Is there something special about mankind? Is he called to work? Does he still have some sort of authority? He's naming the animals. So we're seeing authority. If they're struggling to take accountability or something like that, then I would go more fully into the fall and just talk about the reactions of mankind, where Adam and Eve wanted freedom. They wanted this knowledge to be like God. They wanted this power. And even though they were already made in his image and likeness, and so they grasped at something, but then as soon as they had something that they wanted, they didn't want to be accountable for those actions anymore. They wanted the freedom, but not the accountability. They started to deflect. They started to blame each other, and so it caused this sort of division. I would emphasize that aspect of that of mankind, and how God offers an opportunity for them to return to him before he kind of calls them out on what happened, And then I would go through and talk about how they were, if they lived forever, they would be in a state of eternal separation from God. The relationships had been affected by the sin. They blamed each other, they blamed God, and so they're no longer allowed to live forever in that state. But with this woman, because I didn't have a lot of time and I wanted to kind of talk about the Mass thing, I had her skip ahead to the end of Revelation. We talked about this verse, and then about the cross being the new tree of life and the Eucharist being the fruit of that tree. Every Mass we have the Eucharist, right? This is our access to, again, to the tree of life. This is our reconciliation with God. He comes to us, and he did that with Jesus. So what Jesus had done then was what Adam did not, the authority over all of the creation, and offer that up and perfect it in his body under the signs of bread and wine. And that creation became perfected in the Eucharist, and then was offered just like it was supposed to be in temple worship of back up to God. Are we seeing the same elements in the Eucharist when we look at the signs of the bread and the wine? Why did Jesus use this sign to convey these truths of his body and blood? What does it mean to be part of Christ's body? What does it mean to participate in this offering back to God? And what is the Eucharist made of? So it uses bread and wine, and before they're consecrated, do we see the work of man? Yeah, what he was called to do in Genesis. We see the farming of the fruit of the vine, the stomping and turning it into wine. Wheat that's ground into flour. How does wheat grow? We're seeing elements of water. We need rainwater. We have elements of time as it grows. We have the sun that helps it to grow as man grinds the wheat and turns it into flour. And then the flour is used to turn into bread, and then it's baked. Christ took these elements of the creation story. He fulfilled all of them, all the things that Adam was called to do. He gives all these gifts to us, and then we offer them back up. And we know that our efforts and our work is never going to be enough. But we know that every time we go to the Eucharist, we can offer up our own works, imperfect as they are, add them to Christ's Eucharistic sacrifice, knowing that he can take our efforts and perfect them and offer them back up to God. So every time you go to Mass, you can participate in this offering, that he gives us so many things, that he always wants to be with us. And then in Jesus, he reconciled himself to us because there was such a gap, we could not close it with our own efforts. So God came to us, and then he took our responsibility and he took that up to God so that we could be perfectly united with him again. So when I presented this to this woman the last time, she was so excited. She's like, I can't wait to go to Mass now. Just was so excited about it. And I felt like, I don't know, it touched me too, because it's just nice to see when you're teaching and you're excited about something and then it excites them too. One final recommendation for a resource for Genesis is In the Beginning by Pope Benedict XVI, Joseph Ratzinger. Super great book to start with if you haven't read him before. It's actually a collection of homilies if you struggle with the fall or with the original sin, and it's just really beautifully done. So I definitely recommend that to look at the deep truths of Genesis that we kind of miss if we focus on the literal interpretation. So I hope this was helpful for you. Let me know what you thought. Thank you so much for watching, and have a great day.